The Mongolian steppe was shaking. It wasn't just windy. No, this was different. The whole world was trapped in a maze of colliding dust storms that devoured every path. Through gritted teeth, Altan urged her horse forward, battling the swirling gales. "Hold fast, Erdine!" she shouted above the roar. Suddenly, a glowing strand of horsehair dropped from the sky, dancing before them like a beckoning spirit. Her younger brother, Batu, had followed it into the grasslands and vanished. Altan skidded her horse to a halt. She dismounted, drawing her trusty Morin core of winds from its leather case. The horsehead fiddle carved from sacred birchwood hummed sympathetically. It called to the wind spirits across the endless steppe. A moment later, a shout echoed from the horizon. "Who disturbs my maze?" Emerging from a swirling dust cloud was a boy about Altan's age, a crown of dust storms crackling around his head. "You seek one of the lost threads, little sister?" he asked, amusement dancing in his eyes. "Then run. Run and catch up before my chaos consumes you." The steppe spirit, Gobi, loved nothing more than to whip up dust storms and bury the grasslands in his deafening roars. Today he'd trapped many travelers in his maze, stealing their voices with his whirling winds. Now, he tightened his grip on the wind's song, howling mockingly as he disappeared back into the dust clouds. Altan knelt on the endless steppe, her fingers tracing the fiddle's horsehead carving. When she was young, her grandmother had taught her how the first Morin core was made from a magical horse that spoke to the wind spirits, how the nomadic Mongols who roamed the vast grasslands played these fiddles to call the winds home. But Gobi had stolen the wind's song, replacing it with howling gales that erased every hoofprint, bearing the sacred ovus, stone cairns marking spiritual sites under shifting sands. Even the wind-biting grasses bowed before his dust, and herders watched helplessly as their herds vanished into the churning void. "Grandmother," she whispered, closing her eyes, "help me find the wind's song." In her mind, she heard her grandmother's voice, patient and strong like the oaks they carved the fiddle's handle from. "The steppe speaks in wind, child. Listen with your heart, not just your ears." Opening her eyes, Altan looked across the endless expanse of the Mongolian steppe. The wind's song was still there, faint as a spider's thread, waiting for her to hear it. Her fingers tightened on the fiddle's neck. With a deep breath, she drew her bow across the strings. Her horse whickered nervously. The bow sang. Altan poured every ounce of feeling into the notes. Slowly, the wind's reply came back to her. A whisper at first, then growing stronger with each passing moment. She felt the steppe answering her call, pushing back against Gobi's smothering dust. The fiddle thrummed warmly in her hands, guiding her toward the first valley where Gobi's wind struck like a wall. Closing her eyes, Altan pressed her back against the buffeting gusts. But instead of listening to the roar, she focused on the silence between the winds, on the faintest tremor of life that persisted. And there it was. The wind's true song carried on the gentlest breeze. She drew her bow across the strings, pouring the fiddle's resonant warmth into the song. The wind swirled into visible currents, forming a twisting path across the crumbling valley. "Oh, wind of the open steppe," she sang, "blow away the dust and show me the way." Gobi's laughter echoed from the dust clouds above. "So the little sister dances with the lost? Very well, I'll show you what it means to be truly lost." He summoned a dust devil that tore at Altan's deal, threatening to hurl her into the void. But remembering her grandfather's lesson, winds fight only when they forget their purpose, she moved with the gale, stepping lightly from rock to rock. As the dust devil roared past, Altan's feet stayed firmly planted. Her bow moved in wide arcs, weaving the winds into the fiddle's golden threads. The path solidified. Soon the first trickle of water appeared, then a clump of tenacious saxall grass struggling to grow. Altan smiled, hope blossoming in her chest. She was almost there. On the third ridge, she found Batu's trail. His tiny footprints were erased, but his favorite horsehair bracelet caught in a tuft of grass. The fiddle pulsed warmly in her hands. He's close. But Gobi had trapped him in the labyrinth of dust, where every sound multiplied into deafening chaos. Altan's heart pounded as she entered the maze. First, shouts became roars. Then footsteps became earthquakes. Her own breathing threatened to drown her. She pressed on, though, remembering the sky stone nestled in her satchel, a smooth, blue-hued rock her grandfather had given her, warmed by generations of stepsons. She pulled it out, placed it on the fiddle's resonating chamber, and began to play a Urtin Du, a Mongolian long song her mother used to sing. The stone glowed, and the fiddle transformed her music into a single, pure note that cut through the noise. The dust settled. Stone by stone, the path revealed itself. "Thank you," she whispered to the wind, helping her to restore the song. At the labyrinth's heart, she found Batu huddled against a sacred ovu, his eyes wide with fear. "Gobi stole the steppe's song," he cried. "Now it only screams." Suddenly, a whirlwind materialized, crackling with lightning. Gobi stood at its center, his crown of dust storms blazing brighter than the sun. "You've ruined my storm. The steppe will scream forever," he shouted, lunging toward her with a fist of wind and rain. Fear squeezed Altan's heart, but she raised the fiddle, its horsehead glowing like a captured sunrise. "The steppe doesn't scream," she said gently. "It sings, and you've forgotten your song." She played the fiddle, and the steppe's song poured out. The gallop of wild horses, the laughter of children at the Naadam festival, the ancient chants of the Tengrists. Gobi staggered. He was a spirit of the wind, not of the storm. Memories flooded him. The time he'd been a gentle breeze that cooled nomads' brows during long, hot days. The songs he'd carried across valleys to lonely shepherds. Tears streaked his dust crown. I only wanted to be heard." "You are heard," Altan said softly. Placing the sky stone in his hands, she continued. "Now help us heal the steppe." Together, they wove the winds into a gentle current. Sacred ovus reappeared. Buried grasslands greened. Wild horses returned to graze, and happy shouts echoed across the steppe once more. As the last dust settled into soil, Gobi transformed. He was no longer a spirit of chaos, but a wind keeper, calm and strong. Taking a horsehair strand from his braid, he placed it on Batu's head. "Carry the steppe's song with you," he murmured. Altan's fiddle dimmed, its magic complete. But as she walked with Batu toward the waiting horses, she heard something new. The steppe's song now carried on every breeze.